Hey guys, let's look at what you're doing in math today, and tomorrow also will be very similar problems. So we're going to work on problems that are called distance riddles. They're not quite the riddles that we've talked about before, where we're trying to say what has a head and a tail but no legs or arms. Not like that, but it is kind of a situation where you're given some clues and then you have to work out how to solve it. So the first question I'm going to use as an example is here. It says the difference between 100 and me is 10. What numbers can I be? So what we're going to do is we're going to use a visual. We're going to use a number line. And we're going to talk about how we could figure this out. So if the difference between 100 and me is 10, that means between our mystery number and 100 would be 10. So if I were to think about it like this, if I were to put 100 in the center of a line, that means that my number could either be 100 plus 10, or it could go this way and it could be 100 minus 10. So if I did 100 plus 10, that would be 110. And if I did 100 minus 10, that would be 90. So the numbers could be 90 or 110. Using this visual of a number line and adding up or subtracting back 10 is a great way to show your thinking. So if I did the next one, it says the difference between 100 and me is 40. So the same pattern again would be to draw the number line, put 100 in the middle. So the difference also could be the distance. So I could say it could be 40 more than 100, or it could be 40 less than 100. And you would set it up, and you would have to think, what could the two numbers be? So on your work today, you're going to have step-by-step questions to help you go through. You have a paper copy in your book bag, but the questions are also on a slide. So they're set up to help you go step by step. So this first one says, the distance between 100 and me is 28. So you can see how if we are adding 28, we would go this way on the number line. If we were subtracting 28, we would go this way. So you may need to do some extra work off on the side. So if trying to think about what 100 minus 28 might be is a challenge, which it could be, you might want to break it down. Remember how we've talked about that we can take numbers and we can break them apart. If it was me, I would take the 28 and I would break it apart into a 20 and an 8. So I'm going to move back over to this whiteboard and show you what I mean. So if I'm supposed to do 100 minus 28, I know that 28 is made up of a 20 and an 8. Remember our number bonds that we did? So if I'm on my number line and I'm supposed to go backwards, I could go backwards by 20 first, which would be 80. It's a little easier to do. And then I can go backwards by 8. Okay, so then that would be 72. So this would be a good way to break down 28 if that's a challenging jump for you to make. So over back on the page, in this box, I would then type 72 because I just found out that it's 72. So I need to do the same thing over here on this side, and I need to do 100 plus 28. Now, the next part of this is a little bit more challenging because it says, what is the difference between the two numbers you recorded in the stars? So if you know that 72 is this number, and by the way, 128 would be this one. We're now trying to figure out from 72 to 128, what's that distance or that difference? So what's different between those two. So I'm going to move back to the whiteboard again, and I'm going to show a way that you might do that. So the last step is to figure out from 72 to 128 the distance. This might be one of my favorite things to do because you can jump and move down this number line however you need to. So for example, when I look at that 72, my brain thinks about adding 8, because if I add 8 and 2, that's going to get me another 10. So I would get to 80. Some of you may have chosen, you might think, I'm going to add some 10s. I'm going to add 30 and I would get to 102. So there are different ways you can do this. Now that I'm at 80, I'm going to add a 20. Oh, that's so funny. I'm going to get myself back to 100. Huh. That means that really I should have remembered. Oops, I wrote 28 and I should have written 20 right there. That makes me remember my riddle. The whole thing was 28. That's so funny. Now that I'm at 100, now I could do 28. Oh my goodness. The whole time from my riddle, I knew that the difference was 28 over this way and 28 that way. Does that mean the whole time all I needed to do was add 28 and 28? Oh my goodness, look at this. That means I could do 20 plus 20 and 8 plus 8. Let me get some of this stuff out of the way. 8 plus 8 is 16. The last step is to put these two together. Using your riddle might help you go a little bit faster. Very cool. So that's that bottom box is asking you what's the difference. So if you were typing, which maybe you want to type, you could say the difference is, and then you could say the answer. You also might say 72 plus, and then tell your number. That's one way you could do it. Or another way would be 128 minus the mystery number. So think about a way you could show what you got when you find the difference. So each of these slides is doing the same pattern where you're finding a distance between two numbers, and then you're finding the distance between both of those numbers. Take your time, use paper, write it out, solve it. Don't get yourself in a rush. Make sure you're taking your time.